Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we have a bunch of Steelers news and rumors to cover for you guys right here on a Tuesday afternoon. First up on the show, Matthew Stafford seems to be a bit unsure of his future in LA. Could the Steelers potentially go out and trade for the former Super Bowl champion? I'll give you guys my take here at the top of today's show. Then Gerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette put out a bunch of different reports this weekend regarding players like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and even George Pickens. Let you know what Dulac had to say here because it's probably going to be wrong. And then we get to the final one here where it's a new report that GP has a 50-50% shot of being traded this offseason by the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll break down that report in our final segment on today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Before we get into the content today, we're going to be putting out a bunch of draft content on the Pittsburgh Steelers, all the top draft guys, film analysis, all that great stuff that we can't put up here on YouTube. I'm going to be putting that on my Twitter this offseason, guys. So if you want that extensive Steelers draft coverage on film analysis on all the top draft prospects the Steelers are going to be targeting, you can find me at Jack_Sperry. You guys can also follow us on IG. We have a brand new IG page for Steelers Talk. It's at Steelers CS. If you guys want to check that out for short form Steelers content just about every day, that's where you guys can find us. So let's start here with the latest Steelers trade rumor, and it has everything to do around Los Angeles Rams starting quarterback Matthew Stafford. And as he said after the Rams' loss to the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round of the playoffs this weekend, that he needs to think about his future with the Los Angeles Rams and his standing in the National Football League as a whole before he can commit to being back with the Los Angeles Rams in 2025. And some people took his comments this weekend to kind of mean, okay, he's going to demand a trade out of LA. He doesn't want to be here anymore. He wants to go to a true contender at this point. You can definitely make an argument if the Steelers are a legit contender at this point. But some do think that Stafford's going to try and get traded to a legit title contender in 2025. But for me personally, guys, I think that his comments were more just him contemplating retirement. And I do think that if he's back in 2025 playing in this league, I think it will be with the Los Angeles Rams, who have an up-and-coming defense. They still have Puka Nacua, who he's got excellent chemistry with. I think that, they make a couple moves on the offensive line. Kyron Williams and that run game is going to be really good. Of course, he's got Sean McVay calling the plays for him. I just don't know if there's a better situation out there for him than LA if he does decide to play in 2025. But to be clear, I would be down for this. If he does want out, or if the Rams want to move on at quarterback and they want to shop him this offseason, I would 100% be in on bringing in Matthew Stafford to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I know what you're saying at home. Jack, he's too old. I'm tired of retread quarterbacks. I want somebody young. Well, the Steelers are looking for somebody that can potentially win a Super Bowl for them right now. Cam Hayward is in the final 2 years of his career, and a young quarterback likely gives you the worst possible chance of getting a Lombardi trophy, whereas a veteran that's been there, who's currently a top 10 quarterback in the league, in my opinion, still has excellent arm strength and excellent arm talent. And he's won a Super Bowl. So I think that he fits the mold of what the Pittsburgh Steelers want in a starting quarterback. And here are the 5 things the Steelers are looking for in a quarterback this offseason. They want an experienced playoff veteran. Check that box for Matthew Stafford. He's won a Super Bowl. Scheme fit with Arthur Smith. Matthew Stafford's had the best years of his career in Sean McVay's West Coast style of offense. Arthur Smith runs a similar style of offense. Perfect fit for Arthur Smith. Check that box. Then play in the AFC North conditions. He just played in Philadelphia in the snow and had some absolute lasers in those conditions. So you guys can check that box. High-end downfield passer, check that box. He's got excellent arm talent. And someone who protects the football. He's done better with that in the last 2 seasons compared to the Super Bowl winning season, where he actually led the league in interceptions and still won the damn Super Bowl. So this guy can definitely get it done for you, man. So I think that if the Steelers have an opportunity to go get Matthew Stafford, they should probably go do it. But I want to be clear about this too. Matthew Stafford would not be enough, right? It's not like you just get Matthew Stafford and all your issues on offense go away. The offensive line needs fixing. You need to get a legit number 1 running back. You need to revamp this wide receiver room. Matthew Stafford would just be one step in a process this offseason to hopefully turn around the Steelers' offense for 2025. And in my opinion, guys, Stafford is a clutch, experienced veteran that has won a Super Bowl, that is still a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League, and he is honestly by far the best quarterback that could be made available for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd put probably a close second, or relatively close second, Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. So let me know down there in the comments section what you guys have to think about this trade idea right here. I think it's probably going to cost around a second-round pick to go out and get Matthew Stafford. And honestly, depending on the market for Stafford, it might cost the Steelers even more than a second-rounder to get Stafford in their building. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Would you accept this trade? Type A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if you're accepting or declining this trade for Matthew Stafford. So another Los Angeles Ram that seems a bit unsure about his status with the Los Angeles Rams organization moving forward is Cooper Kupp, a player that was reportedly on the trade block before the trade deadline this year, and the Steelers were reportedly very much in on bringing in Cooper Kupp. So this is something that I think could potentially pop up again for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would imagine that they still like him and like his skill set as a player. So if the Rams do decide to let go of Cooper Kupp, and I actually think that they will move on from Kupp this offseason, could it potentially make sense for the Steelers to go get him? Well, I do think this one is more likely than a Matthew Stafford trade. I think that if Stafford comes back, the Rams should probably go with Stafford once again. Maybe draft his replacement, potential replacement, but you probably stick with Stafford at QB1. But as for Kupp, he's an aging veteran, and I think that they would probably like to move on and try to revamp the wide receiver 2 position with Puka Nacua leading the way. Kupp is on the other side of 30 years old now. He's still one of the best blocking running back or wide receivers in the NFL, which is something that Arthur Smith would really appreciate. It's one of the reasons why this team tried to go get him at the trade deadline this year. And the Steelers also showed interest in Kupp in the trade deadline this year. Unfortunately, the Rams started winning football games there. They beat the Vikings, and all of a sudden, boom, they're back in playoff contention and ended up making the playoffs. So Cooper Kupp did not end up coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, I would say at this point, I was very much in on the Steelers getting Kupp middle of the season. But right now, if I'm being honest, Kupp is not on my on the top of my list of wide receiver targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Number one, injuries have been a big concern for him. Not only this season, but in seasons past, he's not been able to stay healthy, especially with his ankles. And then, the physical decline because of those injuries, because of age, whatever you guys want to call it, his route running isn't quite as crisp. He's not this physical specimen that he used to be back when he was having like the best wide receiver season in the history of the league back in 2021. And then also Pittsburgh needs a true outside guy. I think Cooper Kupp really thrives in the slot. And right now, both Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson, kind of smaller guys, I think are more suited to play in the slot for the Steelers moving forward. I think the Steelers need to find a true outside receiver here this offseason, maybe even 2 of them if you trade George Pickens, which certainly seems like a possibility this offseason. We'll talk about that later in today's show. But first, be the GM down there in the comment section. Would you trade for Cooper Kupp? And if so, what round pick would you be willing to offer for Kupp's services this offseason? But before we get into the rest of today's content here on Steelers Talk, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place for you to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Game Time has a brand new feature on their app called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is get into the Game Time app, select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you click into an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically filters with their entire database of tickets to find you the best tickets at the best prices with the best views so that you and your family can get the best possible deals on any ticket you get to any live event. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all-in pricing so you don't get slapped with crazy fees at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. You can create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Gerry Dulac had some quote-unquote reports for us this weekend. Now, as most Steelers fans know, Dulac has been wrong from time to time. Actually, more than time to time. He said Kenny Pickett was going to be back last year. Deontay Johnson had a 100% chance of being on the roster. A week later, he gets traded. So take everything that Gerry says with a grain of salt here. But he did have some things to say, particularly about some big-name Steelers players. We'll start with Russell Wilson. Dulac says that the Steelers do not plan to bring back Russell Wilson in 2025, and I will echo this sentiment here from Gerry because I think it's going to be the case. Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson, it's been known for a while. They've been butting heads all season long. They don't necessarily have the best working relationship, and the reason for that is because Russ's skill set doesn't necessarily fit with what Arthur Smith wants to do in terms of throwing the ball over the middle of the field, full field progression reads. The stuff Art likes to run are the same things that Russ really struggles with. So you have to kind of cater the offense to Russ, and I don't think that's something Art really wants to do. So I do think Russell Wilson could have success here in Pittsburgh if they really ran his offense and then they gave him a good run game, but I don't think Art wants to do that, so I think Russ will be hitting the bricks. And then Dulac also said that Pittsburgh is expecting to bring back Justin Fields as their starting quarterback in 2025, and this is also echoing my sentiment that I have had early this offseason. I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are infatuated with Justin Fields and his physical skill set and his massive upside that he does, in fact, bring to the table. And I think that they're probably going to roll the dice on him potentially having that breakout season in his 5th year in the National Football League. And, if he hits, phenomenal. Steelers back probably in Super Bowl contention. If he doesn't hit, it's probably another season wasted here in Pittsburgh, and you're looking for a new quarterback in 2026. Another thing that Gerry Dulac says is that the George Pickens trade has a quote-unquote 50-50 shot of happening this offseason, and the Steelers do not plan on giving GP an extension this offseason either. Now, for me personally, I would give it more than a 50% chance that the Steelers trade George Pickens because I think George is going to want to get paid. I think he views himself as a top 10 receiver in the league right now. And, with the punctuality issues, with the professionalism stuff, the effort issues that have been on his tape over the last 3 seasons, I don't think Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, and the Steelers want to invest, $28+ million per season to sign George Pickens to a long-term extension, at least not this offseason. So I'm not sure if those two things can coexist. And I do think that the Steelers and GP will agree to part ways at some point this offseason, and the Steelers will end up trading him. So sound off for me down there in the comment section. What's the percent chance that George Pickens is traded this offseason? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance he gets traded, to 100, meaning he's definitely out the door. Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments. Some more reports from Dulac this weekend. He says that Pittsburgh is likely to get a new speedy running back one this offseason and replace Najee Harris. And once again, I concur with what Gerry Dulac is saying here. I think that the Steelers want to get a little bit more dynamic in the running back room. Najee Harris, for what he was fine, but he wasn't very explosive. He wasn't very dynamic. He wasn't making a lot of guys miss. And, that's the type of run game that the Steelers want to have. They want to have that Saquon Barkley type of impact player. They want to have Derrick Henry type of impact in their running back room so that they can have one of the most dominant run games and enforce their will whenever they want in the run game. So this is the list of probably the fastest and best speedy running backs in the draft this year. Ashton Jancy out of Boise State, home run hitter. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is also a big-time player. Also, Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, super fast. Probably going to run in the 4.3s this year, guys. He is an absolute burner as a straight-line athlete. Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. We saw him play in the national championship game Monday night. This guy can be dynamic as well. Then R.J. Harvey out of UCF is a guy I would seriously consider checking out his highlight tape, man. His jump cut is incredible. He's a home run hitter. He had an NFL workhorse workload at UCF this past season, and I think that R.J. Harvey is somebody to keep your eye on here for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward if they can't get a guy like Ashton Janty. Then finally here, Gerry said that look for Corey Trice Jr. to potentially be a CB2 option for the Pittsburgh Steelers next season. Now, I think that this is the one where I disagree with Dulac. All right, I don't think the Steelers necessarily are going to go into next season with Joey Porter Jr. and then Corey Trice Jr. as the avatar duo on the outside. I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I think that Corey Trice Jr. it could potentially be a good starting number 2 corner in this league, but I do think that they're going to want to get a little bit more veteran experience in there again, and I think they're going to make a splash at CB2 in free agency this offseason, and then they might even draft another player this year in the NFL draft. So I just don't know how Corey Trice Jr. goes into next season slated to be the number 2 cornerback. I think they're going to probably keep him at the dime backer spot where he started this past season, and he actually played really well in that dime backer spot. So I think that Trice's youth and potential prevents Pittsburgh from maybe taking a cornerback like first round, second round. But I think that they probably will go out and get a veteran in free agency, and they'll make Corey Trice Jr. More of a dime backer and a backup outside corner in case JPJ or the veteran they sign ends up getting hurt. So discuss it for me down there in the comment section. Would you make Corey Trice Jr. the full-time CB2 if you were in charge of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me personally, I'm going to go out in free agency and get a solid veteran that thrives in man coverage. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We got more Steelers content coming your way throughout this offseason and throughout this week. 2 videos a day, most days this week, getting you guys ready for championship week here in the National Football League and kicking off the Steelers 2025 offseason right here on the Offseason Blitz here on Steelers Talk.